All right, let's rock and roll. Well, hello and welcome everyone and good afternoon. Welcome to the final LPI intern story. My name is Sherelle Webb and I'm your public engagement lead for the Lunar and Planetary Institute. And we are so thrilled that you decided to join us tonight. And here my partner in crime is Grace Bowen. Go ahead, Grace.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're going to have a great discussion with our panelists tonight.
Absolutely. Well, let's go ahead and get started with everything. All right. So if you're joining us for the very first time, we want to thank you for spending your evening with us, your afternoon, evening with us. And so the LPI intern program in planetary science provides undergraduate students with an opportunity to perform cutting edge research, learn from widely respected planetary scientists, and discover exciting careers in planetary science. During the 10-week internship, students have the opportunity to participate in enrichment activities, including lectures and career development workshops. Summer interns work one-on-one with scientists from LPI or the NASA Johnson Space Center on a research project. Interns are selected by the program advisors who look for academic excellence and scientific interests and backgrounds compatible with their specific program needs or project needs. Students with majors in a physical or natural science, engineering, computer science, or mathematics are preferred, but all eligible students will be considered.
All right. So in case you're new to Zoom webinar, I'll just briefly say that if you have any questions you want to pose to our panelists, you can do that using either the chat function or the Q&A feature that's at the toolbar on the bottom of the screen. And if you enter those questions there, we will make sure to get to them and get them answered. Unfortunately, because it's a webinar, we won't be able to hear your voice or see your camera, but that's okay. So you can communicate with us, like I said, through the Q&A or through the chat. And this recording will be available on our LPI YouTube channel. Yeah, so please get your questions in and we'll get started in just a minute here.
All righty, so let's kick this off with a poll. We want to know who's in our audience tonight. So we're going to start off with the very first poll question, which is, have you ever attended an LPI event before? Have you ever attended an LPI event before? All right, so we have some very new guests and we're so happy that you decided to join us. And I will end the poll question in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then the second one is, so we're so happy that you decided to join us, but now we want to ask you, tell us a little bit about yourself. All right, undergraduate students. This is exciting because we were once all undergraduate students or currently undergraduate students. So this is great. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you so very much. All right, so I would like to start off by introducing giving our panelists, our phenomenal LPI interns, a chance to introduce themselves. And I'm going to start off with the top left. So Skyler, would you please go ahead and introduce yourself to everyone tonight?
Hi, everyone. My name is Skyler. I am a rising junior at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. My major is I'm a course 12. All of the majors are numbered here, but that means I am an Earth, atmospheric, and planetary science student. And yeah, I'll graduate in 2023. Thank you very much.
Wow, 2023. All right. Well, congratulations in advance. Eric?
Sure thing. I'm Eric Blom. I'm a rising fourth-year student at the University of Chicago, and I am a geophysical sciences major.
Awesome and welcome. Adriana?
Hi everyone, I'm Adriana. I'm a senior at the University of Alaska Anchorage, majoring in geology, but also minoring in art.
Love that. Kyle?
Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Kyle Ivey. I'll be a senior this coming year at the University of California, Santa Barbara, and I'm studying earth science with an emphasis in geophysics, and I'll be minoring in astronomy and physics.
Oh, incredible. Thank you, Kyle. And last but not least, this is not a current LPI intern, but he is coming back to us as an alum. So Scott, would you tell us about yourself?
Sure. Hello, my name is Scott. I was an LPI intern in the summer of 2016. And then I went to the University of Texas to do a master's and then stuck around to do a PhD at the University of Texas. But I am currently a scientist working for Jacobs on the JETS contract at NASA's Johnson Space Center. And I run an X-ray CT lab in the Astromaterials Research and Exploration Sciences Division.
Wow. Okay. So I am so happy that you decided to join us, Scott. And that was definitely a mouthful. Can't wait to kind of peel that back a little bit because I want to definitely know more about that. And so we're going to start kicking off the questions now. So my first question is for Kyle. What sort of activities or hobbies did you participate in school? So in school, outside of school, what were some of those activities would you care to share with us?
Yeah, so in high school, I played for the school soccer and tennis team. I was really into history, actually. I founded a history club, thought that I was going to major in history. And then as I moved on to community college before I came to the University of California, Santa Barbara, got really into rock climbing and camping and going outdoors. And I think that really started my interest for geology. And yeah, on the side, I like to read a lot.
Well, that's pretty cool. You know, I particularly love the fact that you participated in community college because it seems as if it's kind of, lack of a better word, kind of downplayed a little bit with attending. So going back to your participation, do you think that it laid or established a firm foundation, or were you let's say, were you thinking about not taking heavy classes, or what was the reason why the transition from community on to?
Yeah. So in high school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to study coming out of high school. And so I decided to go to the community college route. I started off as a bio major, actually, did that for a year or two, kind of realized it wasn't for me. I always thought I wasn't good at math. And so I kind of avoided that. And I took a calculus class and had a really great teacher and found a passion for it and ended up joining the environmental science club and went on cool trips and met the geology teacher through that at my school. And that kind of diverted my path. And I changed over from biology to geology, but I really liked math. So I ended up combining the two and did geophysics.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing. I think that that's very interesting information and a path that so many consider or may not even think that is possible. So I thank you for sharing and being transparent on your journey. And hey, you made it, right? You made it out of all of that. So future is very bright. So thank you for sharing that. So talking about college experiences, I want to jump to Skyler. So Skyler, what kind of classes are you currently taking in college? And so this is for Skyler as well as Eric.
All right. So I've taken a bunch of different stuff. I'm at the point where I'm starting to go from like general classes to more specialized ones, like within my major. So I guess I'll start in my major. I want to take an exoplanet class that I'm eyeing right now. There's another class about like planetary atmospheres I want to take. And there's this class called like space engineering that my advisor recommended to me. But classes that I've already taken, MIT's got like a really diverse set of classes. For example, some of like humanities class I've taken include Introduction to Media Studies. For my final project for that class, I got to go to like Metacritic and gather like a bunch of video game reviews and rank like genre versus how highly they were ranked on Metacritic. That's what I did for my final project for my humanities course. Let's see. Before I've gotten to now, the thing that MIT requires you to do, they require you to take certain science classes in order to graduate. Like they require you to take both classical physics and electricity and magnetism to graduate. Doesn't matter who you are, you have to. You have to graduate with that skill set. You also have to take chem, like one class in chem, one class in bio. They want you to be well-rounded. And like you have to do all that, and then you pick your major. And then you go into what you need. They don't even let you pick your major until your sophomore year. But yeah, I guess the general idea has been experiment with what you like, because you could go into something you never expected before. A lot of kids go in thinking like, oh, I am going to be a physicist. That is what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. And then they end up being like a geologist or like some other like unrelated field even, or like so they go into the arts or whatever they want. The idea is experiment first and then go into all of the specialized classes that like are super fun to you. And yeah, there's a lot of weird ones after that, and you can get as niche as you want. It's basically the idea. All right, who wants to go next?
Eric, what's your take on that?
Yeah, I'm a little bit, I think I'm 1 year ahead of Skyler in my college education. So I've had some opportunity to take some specific geology courses, which have been helpful. I've taken, I think, mineralogy, like planetary sedimentology, which have all been fascinating. But I do think, let's see, at the University of Chicago, we also, and have an emphasis on a broad education. So I've had the opportunity to sort of dabble in the different fields, which has actually been really nice. I took some courses in, let's see, in public policy, in which I actually got to use, develop some GIS skills. I did a project looking at gentrification in my hometown of Kansas City, but I used ArcGIS to sort of look at different attribute data. And so that is a skill that I've been able to apply to my geology. So it's really fun to dip around, find new things, and you can always find, skills in different areas that'll be applicable back to your major. But yeah, I guess additionally, in our department, the geology is, it's a broad field, and so we have to have a solid grounding in physics, biology, and chemistry. So I've had to take, I think, about a full year of each of those. So yeah, that's sort of my course load that I've taken.
Yeah, planetary science especially is, as we all know, is very, very interdisciplinary. If you can't settle on what you want to do, be it geology, biology, chemistry, some physics or astronomy, like if you want some amalgamation of all of those things, go into planetary science.
I love that. If you're a bio, geo, neuro, physiologist, you're a planetary scientist. Lots and lots of sciences can lead into planetary science. That's a great point.
Okay, so now, Skylar, you touched on something. You said the M word. So let's talk about major. How did you choose that? What got you interested in choosing your major?
Basically for me, because there are so many ways that someone could like be introduced and go into planetary science, is basically you just go through it from all sides. But I guess my journey was from when I was like 3 years old. I'd always wanted to be an astronomer. Like that's what I wanted to do. Is I wanted to study stars. I wanted to look up into the sky for the rest of my days through a telescope. And then I got to I got to college and realized that I hated physics. I hated physics to the bottom of my heart. I was terrible at it. And I also really enjoyed things like chemistry and biology. So I realized that I didn't really want to lose that like interdisciplinary feel. I didn't really want to pick a lane, I guess. So the best way to not do that, not to pick a lane, is and be able to use everything that you've learned up to this point, is to go into something like planetary science. Like just leave all of your options open. You never really could go, or you never really know where you can go in this field.
Well, I like the flexibility, right? I like the flexibility, the flexibility. I can't even get the word out, right? But I think that you bring up a valid point, because I hear while I was interviewing a few of our scientists, like just a speed, like 15-minute chat, and majority of them, of course, started in other things, and like their pathway was so different, and so it was just quite interesting how, as Kyle mentioned, he started off here and then he started rock climbing. It's like, oh, I do like rocks, or I do like this. And so that is kind of fascinating. But I think that it goes back to a quote that I like to say all the time, that experiences expands expectations. You have to experience it, and then you be like, you know what? I'm finding my groove. I think that I kind of like this thing. So, Adriana, how did you, what got you interested in your major?
So going way back to middle school and living in Alaska.
Oh, way back to middle school, huh?
So we have earthquakes here. So that kind of fascinated me even way back then. And then when we touched on tectonics, I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. So fast forward to about sophomore year in high school. So some of you might know this show called Steven Universe. So they're rock-based characters. And so I got really obsessed with minerals. So that's when I started collecting minerals. And I searched the Wikipedia like crazy, just reading like the chemistry and tectonic environments. And once I started connecting mineralogy and, the tectonics, I'm like, this is it. This is what I want to do. Like, this is the ultimate thing. And then freshman year of college, I had no idea who my professors were going to be or who is even present or what I'm going to do with geology. I just knew I just want to do tectonics. Like, that's it. And I found out one of my professors does planetary on Europa. And it's like, whoa, I can combine that with astronomy, which was another interest that I had throughout high school, but I never felt like smart enough to pursue that. So it's like, this is it. Now I'm combining the two. And that's been my driving force, like all 4 years now.
Well, awesome. I like the relevance of a show that you liked, right? Because you were apparently you watched multiple episodes, and you kind of chose, that was your experience. That's what you were exposed through, and so you kind of followed that path through a sitcom or through a TV show. So I think that that's pretty cool. Steven Universe was my childhood, not gonna lie. Okay, Skylar. So you have some common interest there, or common beginnings. So we're going to talk to Scott a little bit. And so Scott, I want to ask you, what is your graduate school like, and how did you spend your time, or how do you spend your time?
So in my graduate school was it was different. I started at the University of Texas immediately after finishing my LPI intern. So I went straight from Houston to Austin, started there and didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just started with a master's degree, and then did that in 2 years, and then ended up really liking it. And I liked my advisor. I wanted to stick around, but I wanted to kind of get back into planetary sciences. So I asked my advisors, like, hey, can I do this dissertation, stick around for a PhD? And he was very flexible and very accepting of what I wanted to do. And so that's kind of how I got back into planetary science and planetary research. I just happen to have a specific skill set that a lab at NASA's Johnson Space Center was looking to fill. And I was like, well, I wonder if I can do both my PhD dissertation and work full time at JSC. And so it happened to work out really well. And so that's what I've been doing ever since. So I'm currently a 4th-year PhD student. However, I've been working at JSC since November of 2019. So almost halfway through my 2nd year of my PhD. So it's been a little different than most people's career or most people's graduate trajectories. But it hasn't been impossible. I've stayed busy and have a lot to do, but I think it's a unique opportunity to have my foot in kind of graduate education and still working towards bettering my degrees, but also having kind of real life experience working in the curation and study of the materials of the meteorites and stuff that I'm studying for my dissertation. So it's a cool field. So that has been my graduate education. And the second question was that what do I like to do now?
How do you spend your time?
Oh, how do I spend my time?
Mhm.
Well, my time
What
at work.
time, huh?
Yeah. So between the work and the dissertation, there's quite a bit of not a lot of free time, I guess. But I spend my time running a CT lab. And so if you've ever had like a CAT scan, like a medical CAT scan where, it shows like a slice of your brain or your knee or whatever you may have had a CAT scan of. I do the exact same thing, but with a super high powered and high resolution scanner. And instead of scanning humans, we're scanning moon rocks and meteorites and other things that, won't die if you give them 10 hours of X-ray exposures. And so we can look inside of these priceless and irreplaceable rocks without having to break them open, without having to cut them or shatter them. And so it's a very useful technique for especially this division where we have, rocks that you can't just go back to the moon and quickly go pick up another one, or these meteorites that you can find in Antarctica or, the Saharan desert or wherever. You can't just go pick up the exact same one. You have to kind of deal with what you have. So that's what I do at work. And then in my other free time, I enjoy sailing and woodworking and playing sand volleyball.
Okay, I could definitely tell that from your shirt. Like you look like, yes, he just enjoys playing sand volleyball. Yes, by looking at your shirt. Yeah, I can
Thanks.
totally see that. But I wanted to ask you, so now that you are basically juggling, home or school and your career, are like your classmates kind of jealous of you, or even your professors? Are they like jealous of you because it's like you have it like so well put together? Do they talk about like, how can you get me in, or
I mean, there are a few people who have asked like,
how
are
did
there
you
any
do that?
openings? Are there any new positions that I could get into? But I don't know if I'd say jealous, but I do have a unique position and a unique opportunity. But it has meant that I've been kind of disconnected from my fellow graduate student cohort. So I've been living here while they've been in Austin. Well, for the past 16 months, they haven't really seen each other, but they have they've grown more tightly connected while I've kind of done my thing here in Houston. And then my advisors and teachers, I think they're all very supportive. They think it is again a very unique situation that has required maintaining communication virtually. So that's kind of been enhanced with the pandemic.
Sure.
And so we've kept up that communication, and as long as we do that and everyone stays supportive, both the job and the dissertation can get done successfully.
Right. Awesome, Scott. Well, thank you for sharing. And I definitely believe our current interns can definitely say like the amen to that, because they've been having this virtual experience this entire time. And so my next question is for Eric and Kyle. And that question is, have you thought about what would you like to do for your future career, being a part of this internship program?
Yeah, so I guess I could go first on that. So to be completely honest, I don't know exactly what I want to do yet. But having done this internship, I think my perspective has been opened quite a bit. And before, I never really considered planetary science. I kind of took some astronomy type classes this past year, and my department sent out an email that had mentioned this internship, and I said, what the heck, I guess I'll apply. I feel like I'm kind of qualified, and it worked out, and I ended up doing something I totally didn't expect to do. And I really like the research process, and because of that, I think I'm going to continue on to grad school. But I'll likely be sticking with geophysics for now. I think I'm gonna probably take the route Scott did and start off geophysics, see how the master's goes, and then consider a PhD. And we'll see where I end up.
I think similar to Kyle, I'm not fully certain on what I would really like to do in my future career. But I've definitely really enjoyed, I guess, getting to be a part of the research process at the LPI. So that's something I'd definitely like to stick with. I think one thing for me, I am really passionate about conservation work. So I'd like to sort of figure out a way to apply geology to some public lands conservation work. But I think that the skills that I've learned in the internship will be valuable in applying to that, because, I've been working, I guess my project is specifically working with some hydrothermal vein characterization from a impact crater on Earth. So I'm not necessarily working with, data from other planets. So that's something that I can apply to other aspects of Earth-based geology. So it's, I guess, a good illustration that, you can have an internship here at the LPI and develop those skills, but you don't necessarily have to stay exactly within the realm of planetary science. You're not locked in. You can take what you learn from this and then go off and I guess just follow your passion and do what you want.
Yeah.
Great. And so I'll take this next question for Andriana. Will you tell us what you've liked most about the internship?
Yeah, so I really like working one-on-one with a mentor. So it's a little different than my undergraduate project at my university, because we had a weekly meeting, and because I had less time to focus on the undergrad research, it felt a little bit disconnected there. But this summer internship, it's like every day I'm working for a set amount of hours, and then at a certain time we meet for an hour with my mentor. We talk about it, talk about what we're going to do tomorrow or what we would like to see, data wise. And it's just more interactive. I really like that. And we're constantly bouncing back and forth with ideas and problem solving. And I just really enjoy that. I really do wish this internship was in person. Like, I would have loved to interact with others more. I think that's like the one downside this year, but aside from that, I really do enjoy this internship.
Well, that's awesome. And yes, we wish we could have had you guys in person, but I mean, what an amazing accomplishment to have done a challenging internship like this from a distance. If you don't mind, I'd like to follow up with this, daily interaction with, a real planetary researcher, a real scientist. Was that nerve-wracking at the beginning? Were you kind of intimidated? What was that like?
I think the first day was intimidated because, this is a new person that I'm meeting. They clearly know a lot more than I ever will right now. But Alan Tryman, he is just a very relaxed person, and it's just really enjoyable just talking to him. Usually our day starts about like, oh, how are you doing? What's going on in your day? what kind of research you did, because he does multiple projects, and it's really cool listening about Mars project and meteorites and all these other things that I don't get to do anything of. And then we bounce back to our regular project.
Mhm.
It's
That's
just very
so fun.
relaxing. I like it.
Yeah, well, that's great. And it's so important to build those connections like that with the people in a field that you might be going into in a couple of years. So I'll kind of follow up with Kyle. Do you have a favorite part of the internship you'd want to tell us about?
Yeah, I think honestly, kind of what Adriana was just saying, I think my favorite part has been just working one-on-one with my advisor. I know not all interns meet with their advisor every day, but I had that opportunity. And I did start off intimidated as well. You know, it's pretty daunting talking to somebody who's the highest of level of expert in the field that you're working in and not knowing a whole lot. But my advisor, Dr. Julie Stopar, she was super accepting. And I don't know, I just felt like I developed a really personal relationship. Our days would start with talking about like, oh, what did you do today? What's going on in your life a little bit. And then we move into, okay, what did you get done? What problems did you encounter? What can we do in the future? And yeah, I just felt like I really got to know a planetary scientist and get a view into their day-to-day life.
Yeah, and that's so valuable. It's so hard to tell from the outside, like what do they do all day? And now you know you've been doing it.
Yeah, and I'd also just like to add that it made it a lot less scary for going into maybe grad school and a PhD. Like it made it a lot more human, I'd say. And yeah, it made me excited actually to apply to grad school.
That's fantastic. Well, so I'll kind of follow this comment that you just made up with a question that's open to all of our panelists. But what did you find yourself spending your days doing throughout the internship primarily? So, you know, was it mostly a lot of reading? Was it writing? Was it processing data? So yeah, Kyle, we'll start with you, but if anyone else wants to answer, so our panel or our attendees can get an idea of like, what is this? What do you actually do when you're sitting at your desk? We'd love to hear.
Yeah, so I'll talk briefly on it, but I'm curious to hear how the other interns experienced their day-to-day life. But for me personally, it started with the first few weeks of the internship, involved a lot of reading and a lot of questions almost every day. I'd read a few papers and then meet with my advisor the next day, and we'd kind of just discuss those papers. What do they mean? What are their implications? What are the things that I didn't understand? And after I got all the background literature on my study topic, I moved into collecting data, and from there transitioned into examining the data afterwards with my advisor. So I kind of went through phases, and no day was exactly the same, but yeah, I'm curious to hear what others have to say about that process.
All right. So I guess it depends on which stage of the internship we were in. For example, like towards the beginning, it turns out that there was a slight mistake and I didn't have like a software program that I needed at like that certain point in time. So I had to wait a bit. So I spent that time collecting background literature and just reading and like reading up on what I needed to do. And then after that, it was chugging code, writing code, at least for me. It was experimenting with like all the software, all that jazz that I needed to learn how to do. And it's also a different experience too, because we're all remote. We can't really do anything that's super hands-on. So instead we're doing all sorts of software things. And I'm using Python the only way I know how as a glorified calculator. And having a lot of fun doing it. I like making figures, but yeah, it gets you a lot of like really neat experience in that way. And that's really what science is. It's getting all that, you know, background literature and like chugging all that data. It's the good old science experience.
Eric or Andriana, do you want to add anything? Otherwise, I'll ask Scott what his experience was like when in person was the possibility.
I can comment on this real quick. I did a lot of staring at images. I had a few hundred images of different core sections, and I spent most of my day going in and mapping different features that I saw. And then I would basically find something interesting. I would bring it to my advisor. We would talk about it for a little bit, think about what it meant. And then I would sort of go back to the images and see what else I could find. So I got very, very familiar with this section of core that we were working with, which was actually really fun because then, I became sort of the person that was most familiar, and he would ask me something, or like another member of the research group that he was with would ask a question, and then they would come to me and be like, okay, well, now I have to find exactly where this image is because I'm the one that has studied it the most and remember where it is now. So that was kind of a fun experience.
That's very cool that within the short period of an internship, you can become the expert on whatever your section of a project is. And that's how science works, is very much a team effort. Andriana, do you want to add anything?
I think compared to everyone else's project, mine was in a way a lot simpler because so there's these data sets for Maxwell Montes, which is a mountain on Venus, and it's existed for 20 some years, 30 maybe, but nobody's actually taken that chunk of data and tore it apart to see like what are the relationships between two different variables. It's so all I've been doing is just in Excel, like testing very different types of graphs and just comparisons. So sounds a little like easier compared to the others, but just Excel number crunching all day.
It can be more challenging when you don't have set boundaries. It's interesting. It's like challenges one of the hardest things I know I've ever done is just, here's a bunch of data, see if there's anything interesting in it. It's like, oh boy, that's a big ask. So yeah, that is, well, actually, let me just ask, anything interesting come out of that data set, just real quick?
Well, we did find a general northwest and southeast trend in the data, which I guess no one else noticed prior. That might have some big implications, but we're still in the, okay, what does it mean phase? We're kind of towards the end of it, but it's still a big question.
Well, cool. Congrats on finding a trend. Scott, what about you? What was it like when you were in person and you presumably could actually work on samples?
Yeah, so it was just kind of like a regular everyday go to work situation. So I was one of I think 5 interns at the time that had an office at JSC and was working with JSC mentors. So we would go in, spend about half the day and a lot of the early part of the internship. So maybe the first 6 or 7 weeks of actually like processing samples and collecting data. Whereas like the last 3 weeks or so were more interpreting the data and writing it up so that it could be presented. But it was really nice. I mean, it was just like working in a regular lab/office situation. You go in, once you were trained on the machines, you were kind of autonomous. So my project involved running X-ray diffraction analyses on basalts from Lonar Crater in India. And so we probably had 40 samples or so and just meant crushing them with this really cool, very powerful rock crusher, sieving it to a very, very small, like fine powder, and then running XRD to try to understand the mineralogy. And then after that, it was just processing data and working in my office and writing, looking up literature to try to understand what other people, what other scientists had collected, and trying to kind of in the what do these data mean, and then what are the implications of the data. So that was kind of every day, and then occasionally we would have to we would go work at the LPI offices, and so that's where the other like 8 or 10 or so interns had their projects. They had a really nice coffee machine over there, so sometimes, because I was one of the few people that had a car, I would have to drop off people at LPI, but on the condition that they would run in and grab me a coffee. So that was one of the perks of having a vehicle down here.
Good to know. Hear that? Apply to this internship and you'll have good coffee. which is
Yes.
crucial to doing good research.
It was much better than the kind of pretty burnt and like over strong coffee that some people made at JSC that you also were encouraged to like leave a nickel for every cup of coffee that you bought, consumed.
Well, so I'm curious now. We've heard a little bit about your experiences. What kind of advice would you guys give to future applicants to this internship? Either based on the application process or the kinds of skills that you used when you came in, what was helpful to already know. And so I'll start off asking this question of Eric.
Let's see. I guess my advice is to just apply if you're even thinking about it. There weren't necessarily any exact skills that I needed to have beforehand. I was able to learn most of what I needed in the first week of being in the internship program, which was really nice because then I got to learn, how to do, things such as point counting and mapping using ImageJ. So I got to expand my skill set. But yeah, it's, it can be a little intimidating, I guess, because it is, it's a difficult internship, but we all survived, we're all here, and it was a great experience. So I would highly recommend anyone that's thinking about it to just apply. Don't worry about it. So
that's great advice. Adriana, what can you add?
Yeah, I fully agree with Eric. Honestly, if you have a passion for the planetary sciences and this is what you want to do, definitely give it a try. And imposter syndrome is a very real thing because I went through that. I got sent this link from my advisor and he's like, hey, you should try this. And I did, but even though throughout the process, I'm like, oh my God, am I even worth it? Like, can I do this? And lo and behold, I'm right here. But yeah, always give it a try, because if you don't, then that's an automatic no. So you never know.
Yeah, and the internship, you can apply multiple times. So we have panelists here who are undergraduates in different stages of their academic career. So you can apply early on and you can try again later. So yeah, we would just encourage everyone to apply because, as we've also discussed, planetary science is very multidisciplinary. So you can come from a lot of different backgrounds, and those experiences are very useful in this kind of research. And so Eric kind of already touched on it, that he didn't have to come in with any specific skills, and he learned, brand new skills during the internship. So a question I'd like to pose to everyone is, what do you feel like you've grown? What skills, or, your communication skills, your writing skills, your research skills, but now that you're wrapping up your internship, where do you feel like you've grown? So let's see, does someone want to take us off to begin? Skyler, please take it away.
I'll take this one. I can at least start us off. I guess two things. One, I've improved like my Python skills a bit. I always need to improve that. Because like every time you work like with a new project in any coding language, really, it's not even like constrained to Python. You just learn a little bit more about it. And the thing with like using code or using any tool, you just chip away at it until you learn more and more and more, and are like much more comfortable using it. Because the more comfortable you are using a tool or a coding language, like the faster and easier you'll be able to get things done, and like the more fun it'll be. And just having that experience is really, really beneficial and valuable. And I guess something else that I got out of the internship was being able to write and present my findings. For one, like everyone I talk to is shocked because like when I tell them so many people in science can't write, like it really is a separate skill than science, and it's a really important one. If you want to present your own results, you have to know how to write, like write an abstract, write your paper in a way that people can understand. And And presentations are really important. Like we had the LPI, like intern presentations yesterday. And that was a fun time. And just chipping away at everything, just keep doing project after project after like skill after skill, and it'll snowball eventually.
That's
All right,
awesome.
anybody
So,
else?
so you would say, Skylar, you were not a coding expert when you applied.
I still don't think I'm a coding expert. I'll probably never be a coding expert. But it's just that like those baby steps, you know, like
Mhm.
I like was working on making code to like make a best fit line through my data, and that took me a while. And after that, I wanted to learn how to plot error values in a better way, and I learned how to do that. And it's just like always learning how to do certain tasks in an easier and easier and easier way.
Mhm.
It's not like you just learn how to do it immediately or learn how to do it in the best way possible immediately.
Mhm.
So yeah, the more that you do, the further you get.
Well, that's great. I think it's so easy when you're considering embarking on an experience like this to hold yourself back and say, well, I could apply, but I don't want to apply until I know everything about Python, right? Or I shouldn't apply until I've read all the papers by the scientists I want to work with. And you can create obstacles for yourself. They're really hard to achieve. So that's a great point, that it's good to just, you're always in the process of learning, and it's okay to jump into something that you don't know how to do yet. Does anyone else have a skill that maybe they came in with that grew, or that they totally developed during the course of their internship?
I have something similar to that. So in my application, I mentioned that I have a very little amount of ArcMap. It's very little bit that I knew, and my advisor was like, all right, so you've looked at it, so you know what you're doing, like, here you go. I have no idea, but you're gonna figure it out. And the few skills that I did have coming in, actually those I didn't even need to use for this project. I had to do entirely different things in ArcMap, but luckily with analyzing data and trying different things, I like over and over again in smaller sections here and there, that gave me enough repetition that I fully memorized all the steps for these other skills. So it added up, but I came in with not the skills, like some familiarity with the program, but not those exact skills.
You know that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, Kyle, go ahead, please.
I was just going to say that I had a really similar experience because I also had taken a course in ArcGIS, and I had mentioned that in my application, and I did end up using it for my project, but everything I did in it was totally new, and so I had to learn that along the way as well. And you run into a lot of problems and you get stuck, but because of that, I'd say I'm much better with the software now, and I've definitely expanded that skill.
Oh, I didn't even have it as a class, honestly. It was for my undergraduate project because my other advisor also doesn't use ArcMap. He makes his grad students and undergrads learn it on their own. So that's where I'm coming from. But it worked out, so.
Well, so I want to ask, maybe I can just get a show of hands on the screen. Which of you had done research prior to this internship? Okay, so most of you guys did. I see Eric didn't. So I might ask, Eric, what was it like doing research for the first time?
I mean, I give a little shaky hand. I had started a project with a professor that was unfortunately cut short by the pandemic. We were working with some physical rock samples that have been locked in the cabinet for the past year and a half now. So that was unfortunate, but it was really nice to just have the opportunity, in a, I guess, different setting, to actually do a research project and actually have that experience of starting something and then being able to finish it and write it up and publish results. So it was, yeah, the first time that I've actually been able to present my findings, which was actually a lot of fun. It was maybe one of my favorite parts of the intern presentation was I got to have a meeting with my mentor and a group of scientists from around the world that he's been working with on the topic that we've been studying, and just being able to go in and present it. And then we had like a big discussion about like what we've seen. And it was just a lot of fun to be able to, to present my findings and then actually discuss them with other scientists.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, so I just want to point out that, yeah, doing an undergraduate research project is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door, learn about these opportunities. And one way to do that is just talk to your professors, go to their office hours, talk to your TAs. Making these relationships with people in your department, especially people who teach classes that you like, is a really great way to get involved in research at your college or your university. So we've got about 10 minutes left. So we have some not exactly internship related questions for you guys, some more general fun or sciencey questions. I'm going to start off with a question for Andriana, which is, what is, and I think I know this based on what you said earlier, but what is your favorite planet or moon?
So my favorite moon is Europa, because that's, again, what my advisor studies, and that's what got me to where I am today. And it's also my undergraduate project. I think it's fascinating because of how much just how much tectonics and whatnot is going on the surface, and me loving tectonics, it's like, yes, this is what I want to look at.
Well, will you tell us briefly what's Europa? What's Europa
So
about?
Europa is an icy moon that orbits Jupiter, and it has the biggest ocean underneath all that ice. It's estimated to be maybe like 80 kilometers deep, but we have this ice shell and it's moving around and fracturing. So it's pretty cool.
It's very cool. It's very cool. All right, well, so I'll move on to sort of related. So Scott, if you could observe any astronomical object or event, what would, and you're safe. So presumably you could observe anything. What would you want to see?
So mine, I'm going to stick to the inner solar system. I would like to see a volcanic eruption on Venus or Mars. There's evidence that there is, recent volcanic activity on both. But if we could see it happening, that would be pretty awesome. And the second thing, I would love to see a large, giant impact, not on Earth, but elsewhere.
I agree. That would be very cool. Skyler, what about you?
I don't know if anybody had heard the buzz about Betelgeuse like in the past maybe few months, but astronomers found that out that it was very dim. Like it for some reason had gotten very, very dim for like a short amount of time, like much dimmer than it had ever been in like recorded history. And they thought it was going to be they thought it was going to go supernova. That was like one of the possibilities. It turns out it was probably just a giant dust cloud, so let down. But that is something that I would love to see in my lifetime, and I will probably never get to see in my lifetime, a supernova that's visible from the Earth. I think if Betelgeuse went supernova, it would probably be visible in the daytime. But that'd be rad to see. I guess planetary, I'd want to see Io, another moon of Jupiter that instead of being an icy ocean world like Europa, it's the exact opposite. It's covered in volcanoes. Any part of Io, basically it's geology. Like you could never make a map of Io because geology or geography is just constantly changing. I'd want to see that planetary wise. Other than that, I'd love to see a supernova from the Earth in my lifetime. That's probably something I'll never get to see. Who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot of stars. We might get a supernova, or we might just get another giant dust cloud. Let's see. Eric, will you tell us what you're most excited about in the field of planetary science?
Let's see. I'm especially excited for, in the upcoming years, the Mars sample return mission. I had the chance last summer to work with some engineers at NASA Glenn who were actually designing the tires for the sample return rover, which is just like incredibly cool. Just that we'll be able to actually go and, you know, take rock samples from Mars and bring them back to Earth, hopefully, if everything goes right. You know, it's such a complex mission that if it happens successfully, it'll be just insane. So that's exciting.
That's very exciting. There's a lot of cool sample return missions on the horizon to look forward to. Okay, and then I want to end with, we'll wrap back up with Kyle. Is there a favorite planet or moon or event that you'd want to observe or visit?
So, I mean, we kind of touched on it already, but I think a nearby supernova that would be bright enough to like light up the sky, that would be super, super rad. I'd also love to visit the moon, having studied it now and being fascinated by it. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe go measure some moonquakes in person. All
Exactly.
right. Well, well, thank you guys so much. Sherelle and I are gonna launch a couple poll questions. So please stick around for that.
So this is for our audience. And again, thank you so much for joining us for our last and final LPI intern stories for now. So after attending today's program, how do you feel, or do you feel more confident about pursuing a research internship? Awesome. And we have 100% attendance. Awesome. You guys are phenomenal. So thank you for participating. Next question. Next question on here. After attending today's program, do you feel more aware of how to get involved in a research internship? Five, four, three, two, one. Awesome, 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 awesome. Thank you again for participating. And you know what? I also want to share the last and final slide for you all, so you would know where to find the recording of this event tonight of our LPI intern stories. So again, thank you all for joining us, and you can definitely find more information about our LPI internship. Ms. Claudia was in the audience, and she is the point person for all internship information. And so she is here on our panel. And if you have any questions, feel free to email her located at that particular website. And this recording will be also uploaded to our YouTube channel. So thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Again, thank you every one of our panelists for joining us and being very transparent in your experience. And we're so excited about your future, and that you coming back to share with all of us what you have accomplished. I will be reaching out to you very, 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 very soon about future experiences and ways that you can contribute to our outreach in our education program. So again, thank you all so very much. You have a phenomenal evening, and we will see you soon. Bye everyone, and good night.